Hey guys, it's San and welcome back to the BulbaSquad. So today we're going to be talking about buying the dip. Alright, yes, I know many of you are more than well acquainted with this phrase, especially considering all of the mainstream PokeTubers and alpha investments have been loving to use this term, especially. And even yesterday we saw Pokenomics video on buying the dip. So today I wanted to throw my 2 cents into this and explain that there's not just one way of buying the dip, there's two different ways, and I wanted to cover how each one of these ways is good in their own right and in which situations to use them. Spoiler warning, the one you've heard the most about, I think should be used very conservatively and should not be thrown around like crazy. Alright, so the first type of buying the dip is the conventional one of prices are going down, you buy into the dip as the prices are lowering in the hopes of reducing your cost basis or maybe even generating your original entry point at a really cheap price. However, here's the thing I want to throw out there. In reality, we're saying we're buying the dip. The truth is you are choosing some arbitrary number and deciding that is not only where I want to enter, but that's going to be the bottom. I'm just deciding that's what it is. In truth, there's no way to buy at the bottom because, by definition, the only way for there to be a bottom is it has to start going back up. By that point in time, it's too late. Buying the dip is dangerous because you don't necessarily fully understand why that dip is happening most of the time. We're talking strictly in the form of Pokemon. So yes, it can be a mixture of increased supply all of a sudden, so now the prices have to decrease. Maybe demand is simultaneously falling. There's a lot of little things that can be happening. Maybe intrinsic value is falling. Maybe there's just a lot of sealed product out there, and it's just not enough for the demand. Or it's too much for the demand. So that's why I believe you really need to understand what you're doing when you're buying that kind of dip. It has its time and place, but you can't use it all the time. Like right now, perfect example. All the sets just dropped. I'm just saying all the sets. You know what I'm talking about. Bunch of sets dropped. I believe it was Chilling Grain, Battle Styles, Evolving Skies. Now we have Fusion Strike on the way. That one's already on the way down. And Celebrations has been trending downwards for a little while. So, all of those came. Those are dropping. Does that mean you should buy into that dip? Well, we really need to break that down and look at it. Celebrations, brand new, has 2 years in rotation. Evolving Skies, brand new, has 2 years in rotation. Fusion Strike, brand new. We're not even through the waves yet. Chilling Rain, it's on the way down, but yes, still has about 2 years in rotation. Battle Styles, exact same thing. And this is the second time Battle Styles has gotten to as cheap as it is. You wondering where I got in for Battle Styles? I got in $83 a box. Really cheap. Now, I'm going to circle back around to this because I need to explain the other half of the other form of buying the dip, because otherwise I'm going to just confuse you guys. So the second way of buying the dip is, well, you don't actually buy it as the prices are dropping. You buy it as you're getting subpar returns. Not par when we're comparing to the S&P. Not anything like that. It's par for the course of the return. Basically, the average returns within Pokemon. So that's extremely difficult to cover because we don't know what the average returns are. Rudy likes to say 5 to 8%, but we don't actually know. It's subjective, honestly. We all have to kind of come up with our own opinions, decide what percentage return we want from Pokemon. 5 to 8% is reasonable because any less than that, there's no point investing in it because the stock market's going to beat it. So it's best to imagine 5 to 8%. So what buying the dip in this situation would mean is let's say a year or two of 3% returns, 4% returns, subpar, below the average. Seeing that, you go, okay, there have been less returns. They have been completely inferior to the stock market because this is simple interest. So in this regard, I actually believe that it is a good time to purchase because the opportunity cost / the dead money period has been reduced. So, okay, 1-2 years of subpar returns have already been burned through. How many more years do I see this happening? Theoretically, Perfect example. I guess we could use just any one of the XY sets from the Pokemon Go boom. You necessarily wouldn't have purchased it right away because you don't know how long that would have been dead money for. But if you wait until 2019, early 2020 when they announced it was going out of print, not out of print, it was going out of stock, then you know, okay, at this point in time, most of the dead money has already been eaten up. Now if I purchase at this point in time, how much longer is that time horizon per se? So 4 years have already been eaten, or 3 years have already been eaten. So is this gonna have subpar returns for another 2 years? Another 3 maybe? No, they're running out of stock, supply is down, demand has been eroding at it. So maybe another year or 2. That is the approach. Now, I need to circle back around to these sets. In Pokemon, there's one thing that is almost definitive. Yes, you can argue with me all day and night, but every set is in rotation, like for the TCG, for 2 to 3 years. I was made aware that sometimes there are little discrepancies where some sets have an extended lifespan, but most of the time they'll have somewhere between 2 to 3 years. Knowing this, why would you park money into something within rotation, knowing that if you have a higher chance of being reprinted, because that's the big risk. In this entire hobby, the risk is the reprints, because then that immediately spikes supply, and it's just going to outweigh demand and cause prices to drop. And if our prices increase too much, at some arbitrary number that Pokemon decides, they probably have a circuit breaker or maybe a red flag that goes off and tells them, alright, it's time to reprint. Whether you want to argue it's for the good of the players because they want to make money, or maybe somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're reprinting. So why would you go ahead and tie up money when you know any reasonable, any really good percentage gain in that 2-year time span? If it occurs, they're going to hit it with a hammer, with the reprint hammer. So, now that you know this, I can teach you how both of these work and how they should both be utilized properly. The first one, buying the dip at some arbitrary number. There is a caveat for when you can use it. The caveat is when the retracement, when the price correction is overcorrecting. If it goes too low, like it doesn't make sense. The only set right now that has occurred with was Battle Styles. Okay? I went ahead and I purchased Battle Styles at my $83 cost basis. Well, what I determined was that price was so low, it kind of didn't make sense to me at the time. Because remember, distributors have been raising prices. $83 a box for Battle Styles is pretty much equivalent to the $76 box of, what was it called? Evolutions back in 2017. It's pretty much the same thing because distributors had raised the prices. So to me, that made no sense. Stores are not really getting Battle Styles for cheaper than the $500 a case. It's very difficult for them to do it. So, I went ahead and I purchased it. Why? Because the retracement was too strong, and we ended up being correct. All people who did that. It did bounce back up a bit. Now, we have to add a caveat to this because I know some of you want to hear it. And some of you don't even know it. The moment you purchase a Pokemon product, you are in the negative. Immediately, you lose about 11%, just as straight fees, not including your shipping. We're talking booster boxes, you're somewhere between $8 to $10 a booster box shipped, every one of them. So you're immediately in the negative. It makes it very difficult to actually play in this market because you're fighting an uphill battle the entire time. So unfortunately, we did not get to a point where I could then sell. The fact that I even got close to even breaking even was just a godsend. That was incredible. Well, the risk in the end happened. They reprinted it yet again, or the next wave came out, and it dropped prices yet again. So that's what it is. The first buying the dip is not investing. You heard right. You are not investing when you buy the dip initially. No. Timmy, what are you doing? Put down your phone. No. Don't you buy Chilling for 800. No, get back here. Alright guys, sorry about that. I had to take care of a little something. So basically, whenever you're using this form buying the dip, you're gambling. You're gambling that the market has indeed overcorrected and is going to rebound to the correct price. And whatever price in between, the discrepancy, that is going to be almost an instantaneous gain or a very good gain very quickly because suddenly the market's going to correct it. You're going to gain. You get what I mean. So here's the other thing, the other caveat. If the entire market is dropping, you can't really tell where the overcorrections are, per se. Just because it means that the whole market might be shifting. You don't know if the new sea level is going to be lower than where it was before. That is an even bigger risk than normal. So that's how the first one works. Essentially, you're gambling. You're betting on the fact that the reward is going to outweigh the risk. Now, the other one. Buying the dip whenever you've had subpar return for a few times. This is honestly what I think should be used most of the time. Essentially, from now on, all sets, until they are at least 1, maybe 2 years into their lifespan, I do not want to purchase anymore. Just because, let me throw the example out to you. This is what I pondered for a long time. You buy the $500 case, because that's what the prices used to be. And then it goes to $600. The boxes appreciate by 20% over time. We're just going to say that. Which, that's not even true. Sometimes it didn't happen. Sometimes it didn't surpass it. That's 20%. I would rather have that in an actual investment, a real investment, not cardboard, and then just go ahead and purchase it at the end of that time. Because now I know whatever supply is out there is done. And the risk of the reprint, to me, is negligible at best. Because that's the thing. Yes, we can argue all day long. Well, they reprinted Sun and Moon base. I don't believe they did. I think it was a rebank. But some of you do believe that was a reprint. You could argue all day long saying like, well, Evolutions was in print until 2020, which, again, I don't know if it was. I think they just made so much supply it was hanging around until that time. My immediate counterpoint to that, immediately, is okay. So over a sample of 5 years, where we have 4 standard sets and 1 specialty set, so five sets. So 25 sets, and they've only ever reprinted 2 of them, if we go ahead and accept those 2. So what, you're telling me I have between a 4 to 8% risk of there being an actual reprint? Yeah, I'll take those odds. Like, that's the thing. The risk isn't as high as we all make it out to be in regards to waiting past the 2-year period. The risk-reward scenario is just, it's much more, in my opinion, it's overwhelmingly better. Like, there's just so much less risk. It's the same thing as getting into your car and driving to work. Yes, statistically, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to end up in a car wreck, you could get injured, you're going to lose some money, you could even die in some situations. But that is outweighed by the reward of going to work and making a living. That's the exact same way I see this right here. There is clear risk of a reprint. It could always come and slap us, but that risk isn't going anywhere. You buy at the beginning during the dip, guess what? You still have that risk. If anything, I argue you have a higher risk. So I believe method 2 should be used most of the time. Wait the 1 to 2 years minimum. You get to see how the market has really responded. You get to time, like, okay, market clearly did not like this product, period. I'm going to wait a little beyond the out of rotation period. Oh, wait, this is like a hidden fates thing. Like, people really love it. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit in now, and I'm going to go more in as it goes out of rotation. You have that flexibility. Versus if you enter it at the beginning and get absolutely hosed. Like, imagine if you went in the beginning for battle styles at 160, 180. What if you went for Vivid Vultures at $300 a box? Like, that's the thing. Now for the second one. Just be ready to have that money tied up. Be ready to accept a loss, because that could very well happen. You don't know what's going to happen. And just do your due diligence on it. Again, if the whole market's coming down, you can't accurately gauge which ones are going to be the best choices. Maybe you can to an extent by using the spider system and then going, okay, well, Evolving Skies is objectively better than most of the sets around it, and it's somewhere in the vicinity of like Vivid Voltage. well, then those two have a better chance. Yes, that is objective. You do have a higher chance of those performing over the others. But that's only if those two in particular do end up behaving better in the long term. You're still gambling. So, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching this video. Tell me, do you guys agree with these two forms of buying the dip? Which one do you prefer? Do you honestly think that maybe one of these is irrelevant, or maybe even you have a different form of doing it? Either way, if you guys want to support the channel, you can go on to Patreon. Other than that, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.